The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Why do some people grow stronger after failure, while others stay stuck for years? Same 24 hours, same world, same opportunities. Yet one person becomes disciplined, focused, successful, while another keeps repeating the same cycle: distraction, excuses, procrastination. Stephen Covey discovered something powerful. Your life is shaped by your habits, not motivation, not luck, not talent alone. And in this book, he explains 7 habits that completely change the way effective people think, build relationships, and grow in life. So let's begin with the first, and possibly the most important habit. Habit 1. Be proactive. Most people think their life is controlled by circumstances, bad luck, stress, other people, the past. But Covey says, you cannot always control what happens to you, but you can control your response. And that changes everything. The Viktor Frankl Story. Covey shares the story of Viktor Frankl, a psychologist trapped in Nazi concentration camps during World War II. Frankl lost his family, his freedom, almost everything. The prisoners suffered from starvation, fear, brutality. The Nazis controlled nearly every part of their lives. But Frankl realized something incredible. Even when everything is taken away, humans still have the freedom to choose their attitude. The guards could control his body, but not his mind. That idea became one of the core lessons of the book. Between stimulus and response, there is a space, and inside that space lies your power. Someone insults you. You can react emotionally or stay calm. You fail once. You can quit or learn and improve. That small moment of choice slowly shapes your entire future. Circle of concern versus circle of influence. This is one of Covey's most famous concepts. Most people focus on things they cannot control: social media, politics, other people's opinions, circumstances. Covey calls this the circle of concern. But proactive people focus on the circle of influence. Things they can control: mindset, habits, effort, reactions, discipline. And the more energy you spend there, the more powerful your life becomes. Modern-day reality. Today, many people spend years complaining, scrolling, waiting for motivation. Meanwhile, others use that same time to learn skills, improve themselves, and build their future. That's the difference between reactive and proactive people. One waits, the other acts. The biggest lesson. Your future changes the moment you stop saying, "Life ruined me," and start saying, "What can I do now?" Because highly effective people don't waste energy blaming the world. They focus on improving themselves first. But after taking control of your life, another big question appears. Where are you actually going? Because many people become busy without having direction. They work hard, stay stressed, chase success, but deep inside, they still feel lost. That's why the second habit is so powerful. Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. Stephen Covey says, most people climb the ladder of success, only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Imagine spending 20 years chasing money, status, success, only to realize you ignored your health, lost relationships, and never lived the life you actually wanted. That's the danger of living without direction. Everything is created twice. This is one of the biggest ideas in the entire book. Covey explains, everything is created twice. First comes the mental creation. Then comes the physical creation. Think about a building. Before construction begins, an architect first creates a blueprint. Without the blueprint, confusion happens, mistakes happen, and the structure becomes weak. Life works the same way. If you don't design your future mentally, you'll slowly drift through life randomly. And honestly, that's how most people live. The modern problem. Today, people are constantly distracted. Social media, pressure from others, chasing trends. So instead of asking, what kind of life do I truly want? They simply copy what everyone else is doing. And that creates a dangerous cycle, movement without direction. Because being busy does not guarantee happiness. You can work hard for years and still feel empty inside. The funeral exercise. This is one of Covey's most famous exercises. Imagine attending your own funeral someday. Your family is there, your friends are there, and people begin talking about your life. Now ask yourself, what would you want them to say about you? Would they remember your money or your kindness? Would they talk about your followers or the way you treated people? That question changes everything, because suddenly success becomes deeper than money, image, and achievements. It becomes about character, purpose, and the person you become. A simple example. Imagine a ship in the middle of the ocean. It has fuel, a strong engine, a hard-working crew, but there's one problem. No destination. So the ship keeps moving, but ends up nowhere meaningful. That's exactly how many people live, busy every day, but without a clear vision for their future. The biggest lesson. Highly effective people don't just ask, how can I become successful? They ask, who do I want to become? Because your future is shaped first in your mind. And if you don't consciously design your life, the world will design it for you. Now that you know where you want to go, another problem appears. Distraction. Because knowing your goals is easy, but actually focusing on them every single day, that's where most people fail. They spend their lives reacting to notifications, rushing through emergencies, and feeling constantly busy. But at the end of the day, they still feel unproductive. That's why Habit 3 is so important. Habit 3. Put first things first. Covey explains something powerful. What is important is rarely urgent, and what is urgent is rarely important. And honestly, this describes modern life perfectly. We all know the feeling. You're busy all day, constantly doing something, yet somehow nothing important gets done. This is where one of the book's most famous concepts comes in, the time management matrix. Covey divides life into 4 categories. Quadrant 1 contains urgent and important things like deadlines, crises, emergencies, studying one night before exams, or unfinished work due tomorrow. These things are necessary but stressful, and if your entire life stays here, you'll constantly feel overwhelmed. Quadrant 2 is where real growth happens. It includes exercise, learning, relationships, self-improvement, and planning your future. These things don't scream for attention, so people delay them. I'll start tomorrow. I'll do it later. Sound familiar? But highly effective people spend most of their time here because Quadrant 2 prevents future chaos. Quadrants 3 and 4 are distractions. Endless notifications, interruptions, wasting hours online, and mindless scrolling. Activities that feel busy but add little value to life. And sadly, many people spend years trapped there. Covey illustrates this with the woodcutter story. Imagine a man trying to cut a tree for hours, sweating, exhausted. Someone asks, "Why don't you sharpen your axe first?" But he replies, "I'm too busy cutting." Sounds ridiculous, but most people do exactly the same thing. They're too busy to learn, too busy to exercise, too busy to think deeply. So they keep working harder with a dull mind and exhausted body. The problem is even worse today because attention is under attack. Apps are designed to steal focus, and notifications interrupt thinking every few minutes. As a result, many people lose the ability to focus deeply. But highly effective people protect their attention carefully because whatever gets your attention eventually gets your future. The biggest lesson is that successful people are not simply harder workers. They are better at prioritizing what truly matters. Every time you choose growth over distraction, discipline over comfort, and priorities over entertainment, you slowly transform your life. Until now, the habits were focused on mastering yourself. But life isn't lived alone. No matter how talented or disciplined you are, your success will always depend on relationships, teamwork, and communication. And this is where many people struggle, because most people secretly see life as a competition. If someone else wins, I lose. That mindset creates jealousy, conflict, and broken relationships. So Covey introduces a completely different way of thinking. Habit 4. Think win-win. Effective people don't think, if you win, I lose. They believe success can be shared. Many people live with what Covey calls a scarcity mentality. They believe opportunities are limited, success is limited, and recognition is limited. So when others succeed, they feel threatened. You see this everywhere: social media jealousy, toxic competition, and people constantly comparing themselves. But this mindset quietly destroys happiness because no matter how much you achieve, someone else will always have more. Highly effective people think differently. They believe there's enough success for everyone. Helping others doesn't reduce your own growth, and collaboration creates bigger results. This is called the abundance mentality. Instead of asking, "How do I beat others?" they ask, "How can both of us benefit?" And that changes relationships completely. Imagine two business partners. Partner 1 only wants profit for himself. He hides information, takes all the credit, and tries to dominate everything. Eventually, trust breaks and teamwork collapses. Now imagine partner 2. He focuses on creating value for everyone. He asks, "How can we grow together?" The result is stronger relationships, trust, and long-term success. That's the power of win-win thinking. This habit isn't just about business. It affects friendships, marriage, family, and leadership. Because relationships fail when people constantly try to win arguments. Highly effective people focus on understanding, fairness, and mutual respect. They don't ask, "How do I defeat this person?" They ask, "How do we both succeed?" This connects to one of Covey's smartest ideas, the emotional bank account. He says every relationship works like a bank account. Positive actions create deposits: honesty, kindness, listening, and keeping promises. Negative actions create withdrawals: disrespect, selfishness, and betrayal. And just like a real bank account, if withdrawals become bigger than deposits, the relationship eventually collapses. That's why trust is everything. Today, comparison has become non-stop. People compare money, looks, success, and lifestyle, and comparison creates insecurity. But highly effective people understand something powerful. Someone else shining does not make you smaller. In fact, helping others often creates opportunities competition never could. The biggest lesson is that weak people compete endlessly, while strong people build together. Because real success is not about defeating everyone around you. It's about creating relationships where trust grows, both sides benefit, and everyone becomes stronger. Most people think communication is about speaking well. But Stephen Covey says something surprising. The most powerful communicators are usually the best listeners. And honestly, this is where most relationships fail. People don't listen to understand, they listen to reply, to defend themselves, and to prove they're right. That's why so many conversations become arguments instead of connection. So Covey introduces Habit 5. Habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. This habit is about truly understanding people before trying to explain yourself, not pretending to listen, not waiting impatiently for your turn. Actually understanding emotions, struggles, fears, and perspective. This is called empathic listening, and it's one of the rarest skills today. Covey gives a brilliant analogy. Imagine visiting a doctor. Before hearing your symptoms, the doctor immediately gives medicine. No diagnosis, no questions, no understanding. You'd probably think, this doctor is dangerous. Yet people do this in conversations every day. Someone says, I've been stressed lately. And instantly people reply, everyone is stressed. You're overthinking. Just stay positive. They prescribe solutions before understanding the problem. That's why Covey says, diagnose before you prescribe. Think about the people you trust most. Usually, they aren't the smartest, the richest, or the loudest. They're the people who make you feel heard, safe, and understood. Because humans deeply want one thing, to feel understood. And when people feel judged, they slowly stop opening up. Today, everyone wants to speak. Everyone posts opinions. Everyone reacts instantly. Everyone wants attention. But very few people truly listen deeply. And because of that, misunderstandings increase, loneliness grows, and relationships become shallow. Ironically, we communicate more than ever, yet understand each other less. Imagine your friend says, I feel like I'm failing. A reactive response is, no, you're not. Stop thinking negatively. But an empathic response is, why do you feel that way? Tell me more. One response dismisses emotions. The other creates connection. That's the difference. Remember the emotional bank account from Habit 4? Listening is one of the biggest emotional deposits possible. Because when people feel genuinely understood, trust grows naturally. And trust changes friendships, leadership, marriage, and teamwork. Without trust, communication becomes conflict. The biggest lesson is that most people want to be understood first, but highly effective people understand others first. And surprisingly, when people feel heard, they become far more willing to hear you too. That's how real communication works. And once people truly learn to understand each other, something powerful happens. They stop competing constantly and start creating together. That's where Habit 6 begins. Habit 6. Synergize. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. This simply means that together, people can create something far greater than they could alone. And honestly, this is how almost every great achievement in history happened. No one builds airplanes, movies, rockets, or massive companies alone. Greatness is usually collaborative. Most people fear differences. Different opinions feel uncomfortable. Different personalities create conflict, so people surround themselves only with those who think exactly like them. But Covey says differences are strengths, because if everyone thinks the same, new ideas never appear. Synergy happens when different perspectives combine to create something better. Imagine a basketball team filled with talented players, but everyone wants attention, wants control, and ignores teamwork. The result? Ego clashes, poor communication, and failure. Now imagine another team, maybe less talented individually, but they trust each other, communicate, and use each person's strengths wisely. That team often performs better because teamwork multiplies power. Even nature uses synergy. Think about a forest. Trees, sunlight, water, soil, and insects all work together as one system. Individually, they are limited. Together, they create an entire ecosystem. Nature itself proves that cooperation creates strength. Today, people are becoming more divided. Social media constantly pushes arguments, ego battles, and us versus them thinking. People focus more on proving they're right than understanding others. But highly effective people stay open-minded because they know different perspectives can reveal things they cannot see alone. There's a famous story about blind men touching an elephant. One touches the trunk and says, "It's like a snake." Another touches the leg and says, "No, it's like a tree." Another touches the ear and says, "It's like a fan." Each person understands only part of reality, but together they see the bigger picture. That's synergy, different minds combining into deeper understanding. Strong relationships are not built when one person controls the other. They grow when both people contribute, both feel respected, and differences become strengths. The healthiest friendships, teams, and families don't erase individuality. They combine individuality beautifully. The biggest lesson is that weak people compete endlessly, while strong people collaborate. Because the smartest person in the room is often not one individual. It's the collective intelligence of everyone together. After building discipline, improving relationships, and learning to grow with others, one final question remains. How do you keep improving without burning out? Because many people spend their entire lives working constantly, stressing constantly, and chasing success constantly. But eventually, they feel exhausted. That's why Stephen Covey ends with one of the most important habits of all. Habit 7. Sharpen the saw. You must regularly renew yourself if you want long-term effectiveness. The Woodcutter Story. Imagine a man cutting down a tree for hours, sweating, exhausted. Someone asks, "Why don't you stop and sharpen the saw?" But he replies, "I'm too busy cutting." Sounds foolish, but Covey says most people live exactly like this. They keep pushing harder without ever stopping to take care of their body, sharpen their mind, heal emotionally, reconnect with purpose, and eventually, they burn out. The 4 dimensions of renewal. Covey explains that real growth requires balance in 4 areas. 1. Physical renewal. This includes exercise, healthy eating, proper sleep. Your body affects energy, focus, discipline. Yet modern life destroys physical health. Too much sitting, unhealthy habits, poor sleep. And people wonder why they feel exhausted all the time. 2. Mental renewal. Your brain also needs sharpening. This includes reading, learning, deep thinking. Highly effective people never stop learning, because if your mind stops growing, your potential slowly shrinks too. 3. Emotional and social renewal. Many people become so busy chasing success that they neglect relationships completely. But at the end of life, people rarely regret not checking enough emails, not spending enough time online. They regret lost relationships, missed moments, emotional distance. Because success without connection feels empty. 4. Spiritual renewal. This is about peace, meaning, purpose, values. For some people, this comes through prayer, meditation, nature, reflection. Because without inner peace, external success never truly feels enough. The modern problem. Today, people glorify being busy, but being constantly busy does not mean your life is improving. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is rest, learn, reconnect with people, slow down, and think deeply, because renewal increases effectiveness. The biggest lesson. The 7 habits are not quick success tricks. They are principles for building discipline, wisdom, strong relationships, long-term fulfillment. And habit 7 keeps all the others alive. Because if you never renew yourself, eventually your growth stops. Final message. Stephen Covey's biggest lesson is simple. Your life is shaped by your habits. Small daily choices slowly become your mindset, your relationships, your future. And real change doesn't happen overnight. It happens day by day, choice by choice, habit by habit. Because ultimately, the quality of your life depends on the quality of your habits.